Stay with us, gang. Oh, boy. Wait until I tell my wife about that. That's great. In fact, I said to her not long ago, I said, I did a gig down in Laramie, and I said, I got away with murder. And she said, you think? Yeah. Look, this is a great pleasure to be here, and I love the welcome, because this is the first time to try it again. This is the next year coming up that excited me when I was teaching. This is the one where you say, maybe this time I can do that course right. And maybe this time I can catch a loose student. And maybe this time I can find one. All those things that we kind of hope will come up because we're starting again. It's kind of like being reborn. Oh, God, that's a bad phrase. But anyhow, it's fun to do. And look, I do sympathize with your choral director who ran over the cattle guard, but I can tell you, young lady, just as an orientation, there was an old cowboy standing by the old hitching post inn, and he had his thumbs in his belt. And a tourist came by and said, you know, it looks like you have more cattle out here than people. Why do you do that? And the cowboy looked at her and said, we prefer them. Well, I'll tell you, Kathleen, it's wonderful to see you again, and that was a grand introduction for your friends, and it made me wish that I had kept my red hair dye. It's a wonderful time, and thanks for asking me back. I was here, as Lisa said, 2.5 years ago, and she said, we'd like to have you back. And so they asked me back. So it serves you right. Here I am. I was doing something yesterday, and somebody said, my God, he's an octogenarian. And she was a sweet gal. And I said, well, that makes me feel bad. No, she said, octogenarians are hot. Look at this is a wonderful time. I am going to talk for a whole damned hour. Because it's all outlaid there, for God's sake. And maybe there'll be time to have a dialogue sometime later in this hour. And I'd look forward to that. I can hardly wait to see the end of this. These papers make me know when I get there whether you do or not. Well, now, you mentioned, I think in this introduction, Lisa, something about, or at least over the phone, something about me being the father, one of the fathers of the community college system. God knows I'm old enough to be one of those. But it's not a single parent system. And every time I think about the founders of this system, I have to think about a woman who was the mother of this system, who few people know, and should have been the educator of the century, and her name was Verta James. She was the teacher, the first plank holder and chairman of the Wyoming Community College Commission. She put it together. She was the Speaker of the House of Representatives. She was the founder of the Voc Tech program in high schools, and she was a glorious, delightful lady. One time she got up and she said in the state legislature, this is great, you know, you can move around with this damn thing. And she said with the state legislature, they gave her the opportunity to speak after she was retired. And she said, you know, I have been known as an unpredictable and vivacious woman. We are sometimes murdered, but seldom abandoned. Well, I hope I'm here 12 years from now when the community college system in this state celebrates its diamond jubilee. I'll only be 94, so what the devil. And I would like to live to be as old as George Burns at 100, so that I can say, when I reach 100, what he said when they asked him, is there any advantage to being 100? And he said, yes, no peer pressure. Well, well, I have to get serious. I have to get serious here pretty soon. the things always change. I'm going to have to read some of it, and it'll drive you crazy. Things always change. Missions are altered. Issues arise that we couldn't anticipate. Expectations rise and ebb with conditions we have no control over whatsoever. Still, I looked over some of my remarks from last time, and a lot of things have remained the same. But it's important to tell you, I do want to have some dialogue before we get out, before we quit. But I'm telling you, this is a striking and impressive facility that you people, old people, old hands, and new people are coming into. This is largely unprecedented from the days that I can remember the early community colleges with their offices up in courthouses and high schools. This is amazing. It's impressive, it's beautiful, and it's one of only 7, which is a small but powerful contingent, where there are beautifully housed buildings. It's a real accomplishment for local communities and for the state, where support for education from K through college is literally second to none. There are some people in the room here, at least one, Bill. It's good to see you. The years have gone by. Bill Dubois, a member of this board. And what we see now is thrilling, literally. So I could have stood the community college thing myself when I was trying to get out of high school into school, because this system educates the modern Wyoming workforce and assures a smooth transition from high school to college to graduate to upper division to skills across the board. And I saw it in my classes when I was teaching at the University of Wyoming. I think almost 80% of them had at some time or another a community college class that helped them to see better what they could do and how they needed to do it in their college upper division experience. I was so proud of them. They have a great work ethic. They don't believe they have to start at the top. It's terrific. And it comes from community college kinds of influences. As I say, I should have had that myself, because I went to Wyoming in, I'm not going to tell you the date. Why should I do that? On a basketball scholarship. I played there for a couple of years. I was listed in the program as others. But anyhow, and I was having such a good time learning both. I thought I could take both work lessons and party lessons from the XGIs who were on the campus at that time. I was singularly adept at the latter and not too good at the former. And so one time my father came down and asked his old schoolmate, who was the registrar, who knew everybody, Ralph McQuinney. And he spoke like this. He had a sort of underslung jaw. And Dad said, "Ralph, I want to know, I've got suspicions, but I want to know, how many courses is Pete carrying down there?" And Ralph says, "Well, Millard," he says, "he's carrying 1 and he's dragging 4. Well, let me share some of my recollections. This is not a history of the community college system. I've got personal recollections here, so you're going to have to suffer them. But they begin when my first acquaintance, and I'm going to use those reflections to sort of compare things with what's today, what was the past that now can be template for the present, and make some remarks about what the future might bring for all of us. A little tough, you know, as you get superannuated. Look that up. uh, you begin to lose synapses so that it takes a little longer for things to track through. I have a friend up in Cody worried about his memory. I said, Pat, he's a retired minister. I said, you don't have to worry. I just heard on the radio that it's just we lose synapses as we get older, so it takes a little longer. And his wife, Connie, came up and she said, Patterson, who was the guy who was going to pick us up at the Billings airport? And he said, how soon do you have to know? Anyhow, I closed my synapses now on my first acquaintance with the Wyoming Community College system and the idea in general, the whole idea. It was so new. In 1945, 1946, I was just getting toward the end of my high school experience. God, there I have revealed today. And my dad, Millward Simpson, Al's and my father, was at that time president of the University of Wyoming Board of Trustees. And the cry had gone up right after the war for college education. And the system of junior colleges, and that's what they called them, was replete throughout the Midwest, particularly out of Joliet, some of those original places where the junior college system began. And the cry went up, and Casper made a contention that they should have a college. They were thinking 4-year rather than just 2-year. For heaven's sake, it takes a long time to get to Laramie. It takes a hell of a long time to get to Cheyenne. And in fact, I wanted to get here in the worst way, and I did. Anyhow, so there was that cry from Powell, particularly. And Sheridan followed suit, and pretty soon there was this rumble around the state. And I can remember, as a teenager, my father saying, we can't afford that. Now, this state is small. As I say, there are more cows than people. This state can't afford the resources it would take to establish these junior colleges all over the state of Wyoming. And the Board of Trustees at the university had some serious, difficult debates, even though some of them were pockmarked throughout the state from these various regions and would be slightly sympathetic to their constituents, but then would worry about the resource limitations that would affect the University of Wyoming. Finally, there was the decision to tap dance, to do a sidestep. We'll call them University of Wyoming Centers. So Powell became University of Wyoming Northwest Center, and Sheridan became University of Wyoming Northeast Center. And then Casper, which was bigger, stronger, had a more powerful delegation, finally went to the state legislature in the 50s and successfully gained authorization for Casper Junior College. So the rush was on, and Casper Junior College became the first of this soon-to-be system. They officed in the courthouse for a while, then they officed in the 3rd floor of the Natrona County High School, and a great educator by the name of Mo Griffith took it under his wing and made it hum. It maintained itself by a local mill levy, and that was a fascinating thing, because when the Marathon Oil Company left Casper and left the economy struggling, a great community college builder by the name of Tim Ailey, for whom I worked, had the good privilege and luck of working, he went out in the community and he encouraged the community to build a college. The Marathon Oil boys are gone. We have a low income per capita. What you need to do is spend more money. You need to build a college. What a brilliant idea. The community went for it. If he couldn't explain it in Shakespearean prose, he could in 4-letter English. He was really a powerhouse. And he got the community behind him. He got foundations behind him, the Goodstein Foundation and others, and they built the first building up there on the bench where It now is a sprawling campus with thousands of students. The guy who helped promote it in the state legislature was an attorney